us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different, even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink, Hallelujah Jati drink and Hallelujah Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Hallelujah Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Hallelujah from all shops around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Welcome to the new week, Monday, 20th February 2023. Welcome back from the weekend. My name is Philomena Masco. And of course, the whole entire Good Morning Uganda breakfast crew is already on board to start off this week with you. Well, it was very, very busy, such of a weekend, and I can say that we'll be taking you through why and what. But personally, I am very excited to have started this Monday on a good note, especially with the information that I am seeing that is coming my way. Considering that Uganda has been registering an increasing high debt burden, I will say that they're doing some good measures and taking some major steps to make sure that we try to contain it and see if we can actually manage it. Several strategies are already in the pipeline. For example, a couple of weeks ago, we did see His Excellency talking about how all government officials need to first go on hold when it comes to traveling. Well, it seems that is not the only strategy that is coming into play, but also because the government wants to have the expenditure. They've decided that no more taking loans for now, and also they're planning on making sure that they cut down on the number of recruitments, and also they've put on hold pay rise when it comes to government officials' salaries and very many other things. Well, I am very happy about this, and I'm thinking maybe this could actually help. But also, I have a question back in my mind. Did it have to get this bad for us to actually take all these stringent measures? Well, I guess it was high time we did. But anyway, we'll be looking into all of that as we go on. Well, Robert, good morning. Welcome back from the weekend.
Good morning to you, and of course our viewers. Thank you so much for choosing to start your day with us. It's a new week, and like Philo said, this is slightly in relation to that. When you talk about government cutting on its expenditure, being very frugal to ensure that they don't reach a time when all they can look at is debts. Well, something also interesting coming in from that is our district. These people now want the municipality to be elevated to city status now. That means more cost of administration. Yes. And they were having a consultative meeting by one of the members of parliament, that is Ndora East, and they were discussing this. Now some say let's first complete some roads, others are saying no, we are ready, it is now or never. Yes. We need to become a city. But remember, a number of cities, municipalities that were now elevated to cities are still crumbling with managing their finances. They don't have enough money to run these new cities. Because I was about to ask, what's the functionality of the current cities we have if we are going to add some more cities? They have administrative challenges. They have not gotten money they are supposed to get. They have failed to kick off effectively as they had planned. And residents there are still saying now, are we still in a municipality or are we elevated to city? So such things, most of which are also politically driven, become a challenge. Absolutely. To increasing the cost of administration, and sometimes you end up getting loans. Well, there you go. Marlon, good morning. Welcome back from the weekend.
Yes, a very good morning to you. Indeed, it has been a good weekend, and I want to say good morning to all our viewers and welcome to this new week. It is a new week, gives you a new opportunity to work on whatever you had pending, but also, you know, turn over a leaf in case there is a venture you wanted to get to. Now, talking of which, while we talk about our economy and the status, for the longest time we have prided ourselves in having a big contribution to the economy as agriculture.
Now, recently, there is a question of where are we headed? What is the future like in agriculture? Now, a couple of days back, I was talking to a certain youth group, and they were concerned on how they are unable to cope up with agriculture for this time because it is proving to be expensive. They actually, in their words, they are saying agriculture is also for the rich. Now, they did talk about a lot of issues that personally I picked on. Talking about the fact that, you know, first of all, there is a climate challenge, meaning that now if you're going to venture into agriculture, you'll need to prepare yourself for things like irrigation, having, you know, adaptation practices that you can make sure you get value out of whatever you want to produce. And they are saying that they also don't have the financial status to manage that kind of agriculture. So while you're telling them that, look, if you're failing to get a job, and I saw this even when people are graduating,
yes,
most of the speeches, if you have land, you can always venture into agriculture. They're also saying, no, agriculture is not for the poor. It's not for just, you know, any youth. As long as you have land, get involved. You also need a lot of money. So now it begs a question of, if we're still saying that this is something that contributes close to 90% of our economy, who are the people involved, and what is the future like if these youth are actually distancing themselves from the agriculture sector? So that is a whole conversation of why they even want to intervene with government. They want government to intervene and make sure that they put across certain schemes or, you know, initiatives to help them get into agriculture. And that will mean actually getting into the ground level to ensure that even, for example, at times when they need irrigation, government has certain initiatives to help them do that without them spending a lot. And it was just a huge conversation around that. And I'm sure this is a very big call for government to come.
Well, while we're actually still on that topic, Molen, the finance minister, that is Matia Kasaija, was asking government to actually provide a very special budget specifically allocated for climate change, because he believes that if we don't fight it, if we don't come up with very, very well-directed strategies, then Uganda is headed to a sinkhole. And I am just wondering, where is that money going to come from? We're already cutting budgets, and this is a very crucial issue. So
that's a good call, by the way, from the minister.
It's a bit hard.
That's a good call, but we also have to remember that while we talk about, you know, allocating money for agriculture, for example, we have to take in mind that there is climate variation. So the more we keep allocating money without looking at the variables that will affect even the money we're putting in the sector, then we'll be doing a lot of things wrong. So either way, we have to find that money and make sure that we fight the crisis. Otherwise, we'll keep injecting money in initiatives that are not working because of the varying effects of climate change.
Well, there you go. Felix, good morning.
Oh, good morning, Philo.
How are you?
I'm good, good. How are you?
I'm all right.
Well, lots of things you guys are looking at. I heard you had a statement about the dates burden and how we're dealing with it. Later on, you're bringing the aspect of climate and whether or not we should be investing in climate change.
Yeah.
All those things work towards one of the biggest challenges we face as a country. Later on, of course, as a continent, is mindset. Wealth is not something you...
Wait, did we have a budget for mindset changing as well?
Yeah.
Yes.
And exactly, that's the thing. Anyway, everything is possible.
How is that working out?
That's the thing, like our biggest challenge is mindset. We have attached everything to monetary
Yes.
usage. For example, when you look at issues like climate, where are you going to put the money? You're going to plant trees, like just tell the people to do the right things. We have how many agencies that are supposed to assist with the aspect of climate change and what? For example, you look at the neighbors of this world. What are they doing about encroachment? You go to the national forestry authorities. Do we have forests anymore? That's also the other question. Growing up, we used to talk about number of forests.
Yes.
If you want to take a study, do we have these forests? You know, look at what's happening in the lakes. Look at the kind of pollution we have in the disposal of different industries. So, after causing the problems, now you put budgets to solve the problems that you deliberately caused. Who's fooling
Even
who?
when you knew the aftermath.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
You deliberately do things like you've lent your brains to some people. and then later on you want to act like you actually care. So some of these things, they are good for the people who are excited about those announcements. I'm happy. I've had one of your colleagues say, I am happy. You'll cry.
But
Keep
you
your
see,
happiness for your own
when a
things.
problem befalls your home, you don't look at, now let's address what caused the problem. First, you have to think about what is the solution now.
You know,
we have to accept that if the effects are already here. Even if we plant trees now, we're not going to take away this long drought that has been befalling our country. What we have to deal with right now is how do we live in this changing environment? How do we help the people in Karamoja that have had over 4 months of continuous drought? How do we help the people in Bududa that are constantly being hit by landslides? So the help that comes, the adaptation part right now is where we have to invest. Because the moment we get back and sit and be like, okay, people will plant trees and help with the problem, this is a global problem that even when we do something in Uganda here, we might not stop the effect there and then. We have to deal with how do we now live with this? How do we help people? How are we clearing drainage? Are we helping so that places don't get flooded? That is the solution part we're looking at. And the good news comes when you see the government is willing to invest money in making sure we cope with the changing environment.
Me, I've not been raised, and I'll say this again, to be a butter-coating individual or human being. I'm the kind of person who will pretend like something is good, yet it's actually not good. The reality of the fact is that even if you make an investment, however huge it will be, and you're still an accomplice to the problem, has anything that causes this stopped? That should be the question to ask. Why don't we rather start with stopping the problem? There's a big problem. Let's agree. So, if you're talking about encroachment, has that stopped, that caused some of these problems? Probably it's increasing.
Yeah.
Look at the abuse, the poor disposal. Nothing has stopped. Actually, it is increasing. When you come to the pollution that happens on the roads, what standards have we put in place? Before you rush to make investments in everything, budgets for what? What are you doing to, first of all, curtail? You need to first stop the causes, then you can find out solutions. Well, but we are not doing anything about the causes, and all we are thinking is that we can, as you solve this,
at one
you're
time we had a
bathing.
ban on Kavera. I don't know where that.
That's what I'm
went
saying.
to.
If you don't have the nerve to deal with the problems, you're equally lying when you say you're bringing a solution. You can't be the killer and the healer.
And Felix is very right, because it's like pouring water in a basket. You know, you're putting in money, but actually there's so many things that you need to sort. You talked about the Kavera of 30 microns and below.
Yes.
That was something, it came to Parliament, there was a bit of excitement, then business ruled over the future of this country.
The other day I had an official from NEMA who actually said it straight up on air. There were people who actually influenced that.
Who did
The
that?
people influenced it. I want to tell you, there's an association of people, yes, who are working and dealing in plastics. These people have an association. So they went to Parliament, they thought they were going to court, and they said they were going to recycle. Now, we have a neighbor where such Kavera, even at the border, does not enter. I don't think they don't have such companies, or they wouldn't want revenue. So when we talk about, look at what we are doing at our lakes. I was watching a story of people that stay around River Semrik, fearing that River Semlik is continuously busting its banks. But these people are grazing into the river, you know. These cattle are destroyed, and they're saying, if government could give us money and we fence off, the banks of this river, about 100 meters, we fence that off. So we are focusing at money, we need money, we need money.
No, but Robert, how do you come and say that a full state failed to make a decision about whether or not you need a Kavera or you don't?
So there are people who are
kind of
the state. Is that what we are actually
that's the thing.
at?
And then you come out and say you want to put in place budgets. Now, yet you're not solving the actual problems. You're going to keep on reinvesting, and you're putting that money should have done something else. Just put the laws in place. It's as simple as that.
It's a really connected crisis that we are looking at here, because even then, if we don't address some of these, root causes that are getting us here, then we are going to keep investing in adaptation. So either way, still government has to look into how do we stop certain issues,
Yes.
especially with Kavera and continuous encroachments on our forests. I think that's where we have a huge battle, because the more you could even sue whoever is encroaching on the forest, and then the next day that case doesn't even see
And that's what I was saying.
While we are still on the topic of encroachment, over the weekend there were celebrations of the World Pangolin Day, and pangolin, I don't know how they call that animal in Uganda, or
But we have them in Uganda.
yes, we do, but
We
sadly
have-
for us, experts have warned that they're coming to an extinction,
Yeah.
because every other day the people encroaching on this. In fact, I was looking at statistics. They're talking about between the period of 2000 to 2013, about 1 million pangolins had been encroached on. And now you can see those are many years ago, meaning that like about 100,000 pangolins every month are being encroached on. So you can look at that, that is 2013. Now we are in 2023. What do you think is happening? This is an animal that is also that was previously very common in Asia, but they actually got extinct because very many people were encroaching on them, and this has forced them to look at Africa, the African continent, as a source. So clearly there is a lot we are not doing for
And
the
you know what is
environment, for the
interesting?
conservation. Yes.
Is globally, there are very few countries that have about all the 4 species of pangolins, and it's only Uganda we are blessed to be having that. And what is very annoying is why they kill these pangolins is because they want their scales, the pangolin scales. Now these scales are used in traditional medicine, and in some part of the world they believe that for lactating mothers, if you eat meat of a pangolin, then you get more milk. So they yearn to eat that meat. But most of the pangolins being killed and they get their scales in Uganda is because of traditional medicine, not only here in Uganda but
Yes.
also Asia, because most of these scales are smuggled out of Uganda. And the few that remain in Uganda are those that visit native doctors. And we are told it's one of the scales that they usually use in their treatment.
That's
No,
really
no,
very,
that's
very
a disaster.
sad. Very,
Because
very
you look at the human conflict involved, and then the climate itself, because most of them are unable to cope up with the changing climate, and that's why we're looking at more of these species extinguishing and extinction.
Well, I
talking
hope
about
the
all
next
that.
World Pangolin Day will be looking at better statistics. Anyway, we'll take you through some of our local stories and international stories as well. Robert.
We'll begin with what is happening in Serere, where they are going to have a by-election, where momentum continues to build up as Serere County by-elections with the NRM chairperson expected in the area. That is tomorrow, to rally support for Serere County NRM flag bearer Philip Okwara. According to the tentative schedule, the president will hold a campaign rally in Okapa Sub-County and Serere Town Council.
Now, traffic in Kasese is reportedly being slowed down due to the haste of culverts by unknown people. Now, the culverts have been supporting the River Mpondwe. State Minister of National Guidance, that is Kabyanga Geoffrey, says efforts are underway to restore the bridge. Chabanga also handed over a tractor to farmers for mechanized agriculture.
And in the area of health education, Uganda Nurses and Midwives Union have launched a postgraduate diploma in critical care nursing. The union president, Justus Chiprop, said the one-year online training program is in line with the union's objective of promoting professional development amongst its members. Uganda Nurses and Midwives Union, collaborating with Health Council, is establishing a specialized nursing training lab to support career development in critical nursing. The Uganda Nurses and Midwives Union President Justus Cherop said specialized training and skills building is key in continuing revolutionization of nurses and elevating of monitoring and access to palliative care. The trainers observed that continuing education is necessary for the nurses to increase their scope of skills and stay on top of most current trends and practices that are carried out in this profession.
A senior Catholic cleric has commended the Ministry of Education and Sports for the new school curriculum that is practical and focused. Now, the parish priest of Nabingo Parish, Reverend Father Chiddu, was officiating a Thanksgiving Mass at St. Lawrence Academy Schools and Colleges. The principal, Justin Tulina, explained that 2022 UCE results success was based on determination, dedication, and discipline of stakeholders.
Over to the international stories, Ukraine is planning to stage a nuclear incident on its territory to pin the blame on Moscow ahead of a key United Nations meeting, Russia has alleged, without providing evidence. Radioactive substances have been transported to Ukraine from an unnamed European country, and Kyiv was preparing a large-scale provocation, Russia's defense ministry said in a statement on Sunday. South Korea has announced new sanctions targeting North Korea's weapons programs following Pyongyang's latest missile launches. The measures target 4 individuals and 5 entities, including a South African national and 2 Singaporean shipping firms linked to North Korea's development of nuclear weapons and missiles, South Korea's foreign ministry said on Monday.
Now, a senior Israel diplomat has been removed from the African Union's annual summit in Ethiopia as dispute over Israel's accreditation to the bloc escalated. A video posted on social media showed security personnel walking Ambassador Sharon Bali out of the auditorium during the opening ceremony of the summit in Addis Ababa. An AU official later told the AFP news agency that the diplomat who was asked to leave had not been invited to the meeting, with non-transferable invitation issues only to Israel's ambassador to the African Union. And United Nations members will gather in New York City in the United States on Monday to resume efforts to forge a long-awaited and elusive treaty to safeguard the world's marine biodiversity. Nearly 2/3 of the ocean lies outside national boundaries on high seas, where fragmented and unevenly enforced rules seek to minimize human impacts. Now, the goal of the UN meetings, which will start on Monday and run to March 3rd, is to produce a unified agreement for the conservation and sustainable use of these vast marine ecosystems.
Looking at the dailies this morning, the New Vision pro-gay literature found in libraries of 6 schools. Homosexual books seized in schools as well, part of the story. And Vision scribes graduates, also inside proposed A-level curriculum changes, and government bans foreign travel for MPs and civil servants. And also looking at more MPs, ministers cited in Iron Sheets case. And of course, quite a number of other stories you can get in the New Vision this morning.
Of course, the Daily Monitor, government freezes pay rise, jobs in budget cuts. Of course, they give you a breakdown of what exactly government is looking at cutting. Interestingly, there will be no new loans, projects will be standard, no pay rise, travel bans, no new rides, workshops are limited, and skillings will be put on the pause for that as well. But of course, in other stories, 49 UPDF officers graduate from Makerere University, and Cancer Institute calls for more help. 2 men arrested for gang raping. 2 men arrested for gang raping man. Okay. Uganda faces tough choices in DRC Congo.
Well, it's good morning, Uganda. Grab yourself a copy of the Daily Monitor New Vision to catch up on all those stories and more. We're going for a break. When we get back, the newsreel will be coming in after.
Drink and Hallelujah Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Hallelujah Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Hallelujah from all shops around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala.
Welcome to the new week, Monday, 20th February 2023. Welcome back from the weekend. My name is Philomena Masco. And of course, the whole entire Good Morning Uganda breakfast crew is already on board to start off this week with you. Well, it was very, very busy, such of a weekend, and I can say that we'll be taking you through why and what. But personally, I am very excited to have started this Monday on a good note, especially with the information that I am seeing that is coming my way. Considering that Uganda has been registering an increasing high debt burden, I will say that they're doing some good measures and taking some major steps to make sure that we try to contain it and see if we can actually manage it. Several strategies are already in the pipeline. For example, a couple of weeks ago, we did see His Excellency talking about how all government officials need to first go on hold when it comes to traveling. Well, it seems that is not the only strategy that is coming into play, but also because the government wants to have the expenditure. They've decided that no more taking loans for now, and also they're planning on making sure that they cut down on the number of recruitments, and also they've put on hold pay rise when it comes to government officials' salaries and very many other things. Well, I am very happy about this, and I'm thinking maybe this could actually help. But also, I have a question back in my mind. Did it have to get this bad for us to actually take all these stringent measures? Well, I guess it was high time we did. But anyway, we'll be looking into all of that as we go on. Well, Robert, good morning. Welcome back from the weekend.
Good morning to you, and of course our viewers. Thank you so much for choosing to start your day with us. It's a new week, and like Philo said, this is slightly in relation to that. When you talk about government cutting on its expenditure, being very frugal to ensure that they don't reach a time when all they can look at is debts. Well, something also interesting coming in from that is Kabale district. These people now want the municipality to be elevated to city status. Now that means more cost of administration. Yes. And they were having a consultative meeting by one of the members of parliament, that is Ndora East, and they were discussing this. Now some say let's first complete some roads, others are saying no, we are ready, it is now or never. Yes. We need to become a city. But remember, a number of cities, municipalities that were now elevated to cities are still crumbling with managing their finances. They don't have enough money to run these new cities. Because
I was about to ask, what's the functionality of the current cities we have if we are going to add some more cities?
They have administrative challenges. They have not gotten money they are supposed to get. They have failed to kick off effectively as they had planned. And residents there are still saying now, are we still in a municipality or are we elevated to city? So such things, most of which are also politically driven, become a challenge. Absolutely. To increasing the cost of administration, and sometimes you end up getting loans.
Well, there you go. Marlon, good morning. Welcome back from the weekend.
Yes, a very good morning to you. Indeed, it has been a good weekend, and I want to say good morning to all our viewers. And welcome to this new week. It is a new week, gives you a new opportunity to work on whatever you had pending, but also, you know, turn over a leaf in case there is a venture you wanted to get to. Now, talking of which, while we talk about our economy and the status, for the longest time we have prided ourselves in having a big contribution to the economy as agriculture. Now, recently, there is a question of where are we headed? What is the future like in agriculture? Now, a couple of days back, I was talking to a certain youth group, and they were concerned on how they are unable to cope up with agriculture for this time because it is proving to be expensive. They actually, in their words, they are saying, agriculture...
Hallelujah Jingati drink and Hallelujah Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Hallelujah Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Hallelujah from all shops around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Welcome to the new week, Monday, 20th February 2023. Welcome back from the weekend. My name is Philomena Masco. And of course, the whole entire Good Morning Uganda breakfast crew is already on board to start off this week with you. Well, it was very busy, such of a weekend, and I can say that we'll be taking you through why and what. But personally, I am very excited to have started this Monday on a good note, especially with the information that I am seeing that is coming my way. Considering that Uganda has been registering an increasing high debt burden, I will say that they're doing some good measures and taking some major steps to make sure that we try to 23. My name is Philomena Masco. A fresh new Monday, we are dealing with fresh new business, and of course I am joined by Felix Nkunda, talking about issues and conversations that matter very early in the morning. Now, you can be part of our conversations. Get onto our socials, Twitter, #UBCGMU, and make use of our WhatsApp number, 0709602592. Looking at a story we were talking about a couple minutes ago, when it comes to the government strategies that they are planning on making sure they put into play to make sure that we fast deal with what has been referred to as the increasing or the high debt burden. Now, for the last couple of financial years, we have been seeing the debt burden growing every time, and quite a fraction of the budget has been allocated to make sure that we deal with that or we pay back our loans. Now, several strategies have been suggested. Number one, of course, we're looking at less expenditure from the government. We're looking at a travel ban for now, especially for government workers or civil servants, if you may call them that. And also looking at no pay rise, which again makes me question. We have been seeing quite a number of people asking for pay rise, government workers, but right now we are seeing that also being halted. And looking at no new rights. I am sure Felix is very happy about this one. So am I, especially in the context of handling our finances, workshops, and also skilling. All of these are going to be affected in one way or another. Now, in as much as I love these strategies, I love the fact that the Ministry of Finance is actually looking at them as one way of us managing our current debt burden, and probably as we are trying to revive our economy, and or if we succeed in doing it, we can look into unfreezing this. But right now, Felix, do you think this is the right time to do that, or this is a first right strategy we should have done, or probably first deal with the problems?
Well, what government is doing or has decided to do come the next financial year financing and release is something that should have been done about 10 years ago. It is sad that we have only come to a realization that we are in a financial crisis, yet we have always been in a financial crisis. It's funny how we make it look like we are in worst times. We have been living in worst times for quite some time. Yes. I wonder why people have been wasting money. And this is the evidence that there's been a lot of wastage on the side of government. And actually, let me tell you, the level of financial misuse in government institutions will shock you. All this that you've seen is the evidence that actually something has been done wrong. For example, and if you're to go by one-on-one, some of those, you pick out, let's say, the aspect of cars. Let me just put it this way economically. Every sort of investment must have a yield later on of return in that specific aspect or regard or discipline. You know, one. Now, secondly, there is no sensible economist who makes an expense without knowledge of the source or certainty of the source. I don't know if that comes out right. You can't plan on spending what you actually don't plan on earning.
Yes.
I've seen some of my friends, a few people in my age, who have made weddings. Someone is planning to marry or to be married. I don't know if whatever it is, who marries who, lately we no longer know, because you're asking, I see you people, people propose when saying, will you marry me? But I don't know who marries the other. But anyway, all that junk, whatever they're doing. People, you plan on marrying a Philomena, but you're counting on Felix's contribution.
Yes.
You get the point? Now, that means that the success of that function is not guaranteed.
Yes.
Because you have no control over your sources of expectation. You don't know if I'll give you the money I promised to. You don't know if I'll be able to get it, because you're actually not in control of my finances. Now, it's the same situation our country has been in. And it's surprising that we are just realizing this now.
And it's been happening.
It's
progressively.
Let me tell you, what they are doing now, they should have done 15 years ago. We wouldn't be where we are. People in government offices are so comfortable. Comfortable on what? Because everything is availed, yet nothing is coming in. And this is the challenge. Actually, the other person we need to put on a stand in this country is the Auditor General.
Yes.
Are there really audits in this country?
I mean, we see them in the news asking, I mean, firms and institutions and government MDs being audited, but I never know what happens after the audit has been submitted.
Let me give you an example. For example, let's look at travels. Out of 100 people or government officials who travel abroad or wherever they travel, is their travels work related? Are they, if they're work related, do they directly fit into the purpose of the work they do, or are they personal growth related? God, these guys fly. Government officials are over on the flights, but for what purpose? The next question would be, that you have gone to do, does it need physical attendance?
And there are alternatives where you can actually deal with the same issue while you're still at home.
I have seen His Excellency, the President of Uganda, meet with his comrades in the East African community on Zoom. But do you think he doesn't have fuel to go? Or His Excellency previously Uhuru, His Excellency Paul Kagame, and the counterpart. Do you think they don't have fuel to travel? But these are heads of state, but they hold meetings online. Don't they discuss, and those minutes recorded? Are we still in the era of flying Philomena from Uganda to Tokyo to listen to maybe someone for about 2 days speaking what? How to, and you know the funny, these classes they attend the same as they have funny topics, enhancing growth in third world countries. And you have to go to Tokyo to learn about that. Because you get the point. Like,
yes.
Where is the benefit for us? That is an investment. What is the return on that investment for us as a country? You've looked at the aspect of, you see, and you're trying to look at expenses vis-a-vis incomes.
Yes.
The biggest question the challenge we have as a country is, what is our source of income? Because that will determine how much we are able to spend. What portion of what we earn we can spend. What is our income? If I asked you, and I always love to use relating to a family, you can't be planning things without first understanding how much you're going to earn, because that's what will give you a picture of what you can spend on and what you can. Who doesn't want to drive a good car in this town?
I mean, everybody desires to
away
do
from
that.
the potholes,
yes.
well, of course, but
But
everyone would want a car that would be resistant, that would just be flying. You've seen some of these ministers' cars, you can hardly hear the potholes.
I mean, that is why we are seeing MPs always asking, new MPs asking for new
Instead
cars.
of asking
every
for money
new
to do
parliament.
roads.
Yes.
That's the thing, like, everyone would want something good. Look at now, kids are going back to school. Every parent would want their kids to go to a good school. But what can you afford? What informs affordability is income. The biggest question as a country, have we enhanced and broken the borders of our incomes? How much of that are we doing? If I ask you spot on, Philomena, what is our biggest source of income? You tell me revenue.
Revenue.
But
also
how,
the sources of revenue have gone down according to, again, the seven.
That's the thing.
Yes.
Do you know why they have gone down? And and this is directly to URA, if whoever is listening, if you can tell the Commissioner General. One, you must butter the bread. Do you know why the reasons why URA and how the remuneration has gone down? One, customer care. In this country, Philomena, we have people who pay billions of taxes annually.
Yes.
Billions. People who can pay up to 10 billions a year. But what do they get for that? What do they get for that? Long lines, burning sun, your intern is always calling them, threatening them, poor. What do they get?
Because I am sure the response, they will tell you that the non-compliance is really very high. So they feel the need to actually
comes from somewhere. That's what I'm telling you.
Compliant.
The ones who are compliant, what are you doing for them as an authority? How do you tell me someone who pays 10 billions annually in taxes to government does not own a diplomatic passport in this country? And he has to line up at the airport like a fishmonger also who's going to, who doesn't pay any taxes. Like, what is in for the people who are doing a bit more than the others in this country? Why should they be lining up at government institutions? Like, those are the small incentives that are motivating. But when you hear the word URA, tell me where the word URA doesn't run in this country. About URA, there's even, I was talking to a couple of traders who said, these people, they have even people who are, after releasing your goods, they have a team which will come to threaten. Like, PR is key.
Yes.
That's why you're talking about the increasing the income basket, but you can't increase it when you're doing the same old vagueness. For example, there's a lot of untapped revenue. Untapped. How are we assisting this informal sector? Who taxes markets? There's a lot of money there. Someone brings 7 trucks of matoke a day.
Yes, every single day.
Who's taxing this person?
The hours of loading in the morning and the late evenings.
And this, matoke gawe, we don't know. Like, we need to be more intentional about, we need to collect taxes, increase our income base. For example, there are people who start up small businesses, help them put them in order. I think the URSB came out in terms of registering businesses, then you get a TIN. That is so formal.
Yes.
That is so formal. You can't sit in your tower thinking that you're going to do solutions from there. How close? What's the relationship between URA as the biggest income bearer for the country and the people they're supposed to be taxing? Do the people feel need to pay the taxes? Because this is the only solution that we are going to get to remedy some of these challenges.
Well, just in case you're wondering, Uganda's debt is actually standing at 86.6 trillion. This is according to statistics. 86.6 trillion. And this is according to June 2022. It's not so far from this. And with all these strategies and all these halts and the freezings, especially in the travel bans and rather than the travel bans and also the reduction in expenditure, government thinks that probably will be able to recoup about 108.6 billion Uganda shillings. But also there are very many other questions that I have in mind, and especially when it comes to the performance of some of these things, because we are looking at no more loans for the next financial year.
It's impossible.
Yes, and I'm wondering, there are some projects I would believe that are very key that actually fully operate on loans. How are we going to be able to balance that? No,
but you know, we must agree, Philomena, sadly, to discuss revenue.
Yes.
We must sadly agree, and we must put the guys at Nakawa on spot in relation to what they can do for us to remedy the challenge. How do we help them to help us? But how present? Because the biggest question is, in a bit, when you stop these expenses, you must increase. What other avenues can government use to earn?
Yes.
That's a big deal. Uganda, gladly, we are not fighting any wars as a country, because that's one of the biggest expenses.
I always think about that, like, if we actually had very serious issues like wars that we're dealing with, what would have happened to us?
The biggest war we are fighting in this country is corruption. In fact, if the Minister of Finance should be serious about stopping corruption, they will see that figure they are going about, is it 100 billion?
Yes.
This time they're going to get over 500
about 108,
billion.
yes.
500. If they are intentional about reducing corruption, you'll see a tremendous rise in how much money they can save. But it's one thing that these guys are bringing in the money from this way, and others are taking it from this way. Ministers are taking iron sheets.
Iron sheets every other day, more names are being
Then before you go to the
scandals,
NSSF, you have
yes.
people who are sharing money like they are sharing passion fruits or banana fiber or what. So all these things, as you talk about reducing travels, let's have a thorough clinical discussion about reducing corruption. Because if you want to take study and find out how much money government loses through corruption, you'll be surprised it's about 7 times that amount of money you're going to save by all doing those things. But Philomena, something I want us to agree about is, I think we also need to look at the fashion, the lifestyle fashion of government. Let's look at government as an individual now. The lifestyle.
And is this again in line with the lifestyle audits that we have seen being asked to be done for
Actually,
individuals, or even just the fashion, general fashion of government?
I think that the general face,
yes.
the general face of how government chooses to spend on what and when. For example, there are so many functions. If you hear their budgets, you'll also be surprised. Look at the issue of salary rise. Last time we were having a big confrontational discussion about Parliament wanting to increase their salaries.
I mean, some people would actually advocate for a reduction in their salaries, not only parliamentarians, but even other civil servants. There's some amounts of salaries that are very obscure. They're actually illegal. You could say this is just an illegal amount.
That's the thing. Allowances.
The allowances are more than the salaries.
Why am I buying someone clothes? Why is government buying some of the government officials clothes? Were they naked before they got these jobs? Were they buying underwear? Were they putting on bras and underwear? Or just... Who told you they don't have clothes? Those funny allowances for the bourgeoisies are not for Ugandans. Airtime allowance. For example, you're given a very expensive car, you're given various drivers. So one person has 2 drivers, they have about 7 security people, they have about how many secretaries. This is one person.
Yes.
One person, just around that one person, you employ over 20 people to assist. What do they do for themselves? Maybe Baba, are they being showered? Are they Baba saying, like, you have one person, but that person is assisted by 20 people, all paid by government. Probably they should be carrying this person. These are the things you need to look in and look at the security detail of some people. You're running away from who? For Christ's sake, you are voted. You said we vote you. We voted you. Now you're running away from us.
Trust issues.
That's the thing.
But also it says a lot.
And those are all expenses.
Yes, they actually know they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. I mean,
could look at it that way also.
There is. You could actually interpret it that way.
As I've told you, one individual but has 20 people earning government money. There's someone who brings the juice, there's someone who you said, there's someone to pick the food, like that kind of wastage. And all these things that government is highlighting about cutting, it's long overdue. Let's just look at these conferences and seminars. Government can have seminars. When do they work? Every time you go to some people's offices.
He's not in office.
Seminar,
they have a seminar.
meeting.
They have a workshop. Yes.
You guys can meet. Honestly, if
Well, we are talking about government freezing a pay rise and very many other, other bans that they are planning on implementing in the 2023-2024
this country should be a first
budget.
class.
And I'll probably take you through some of them. There will be no new borrowing next financial year, and this shall continue over the short to medium term so as to minimize the share of URA revenues being used to service debt in the medium term so as to make more resources available to finance to critical development priorities of government. And no entity shall receive an increase in the budget in light of the 3.37 trillion Uganda shilling reduction in discretionary resources. Travel abroad spending shall be restricted to only His Excellency the President and Her Excellency the Vice President, the Right Honorable Speaker and Deputy Speaker, His Lordship the Chief Justice and Deputy Chief Justice, Right Honorable Prime Minister, Principal Judge, and critical travel for security, arbitration of government cases, and also resource mobilization. And also looking at salary enhancement is suspended by 1 year, at least for the financial year of 2023-2024, and implementation of the Comprehensive Salary Enhancement Plan will commence effective financial year 2024-2025. And also vehicle purchase is frozen in the financial year of 2023-2024 with the exception of the purchase of hospital ambulances, vehicles for medical supplies and distribution, agriculture extension services, security and revenue mobilization. Spending on workshops and seminars shall be reduced by 50%. This should have been probably 70%, but yes, by 50% while considering the mandate of the vote, and restored the reduced wage and non-wage for revenue generating subventions and those with statutory requirements, and only allocations for ongoing commitments under multi-year projects and retooling projects have been provided. Now, this is specifically cut out for ongoing, meaning that if there are new projects that will be coming on board, there is quite a lot that is going to necessitate for you to require budgets, which again, I feel like this is okay. We can work with this for now.
I think the biggest battle then will be implementing. You see,
yes.
we have a challenge in the country about people and being very complacent, and also we have a lot of people with political power who normally abuse processes. But how about we also agree that the challenge we face as a country economically is much bigger than just those. As you speak to government,
yes,
what is the role of other institutions that supplement government's work? What is there for them to do to supplement that?
Yes.
That has been
aside
put in
from
place?
these directives coming in from the Ministry of Finance.
What is in for them to supplement all this? Is there something that should be done else to supplement all that has been put in place? The big question would be also, how, you see, this abrupt cut, what is the effect of it on governance? Have you also assessed that?
Yes.
Because before you know, we may end up having every government institution saying, because of that, this is not happening. Because
absolutely.
Of that,
and I mean, expected. And for, I mean, all the time here, Felix, you've been talking about how as a country, as an economy, we are more focused, we are more engraved into a political administration, and we invest our money in the administration bit,
absolutely,
as opposed to actually getting the work fully done, fully and efficiently done. Now, I believe that we are going to hear very many reasons coming in. Some ministries not doing what they're supposed to do, entities and government institutions are coming out, say, but you see, we cannot do this because the Ministry of Finance said there are no funds, there are no special budgets for this and that. Again, isn't that going to be a very big issue?
I see that forthcoming, but I think government should just manage it well as the head of all these institutions where it has cracked the whip. But you know, when you start putting in place such measures, the biggest also question is that who are you partnering with?
Yes.
I think this is now a challenge with government. Who is the lobbyman for government? Who is lobbying? You know, when you don't have, for example, if your families, for us who grew up in families that were a bit not financially stable, you had to get financially stable allies
To
thrive,
yes.
like in schools.
Yes.
When you come, you need to know, Philomena, you see her suitcase is always full of milk, maweke, you know, daddy is what. Then you know when you know how to manipulate. You start greeting her in the morning. You take for her a cup.
You wash
you know,
for her
let me get you porridge. Of course, she's not going to unless there are some hard guys. But then even if you bring a jakuri or wundas where you die. But there are some people you knew. So what are we doing on top of this as a country? Don't we think we should be getting into some reasonable partnerships for some particular areas? For example, in the area of healthcare.
Yes.
As times are biting, economic times are biting, who are we partnering with? The Cancer Institute needs a lot of assistance. It has been all over the newspaper. It has been all over finances. Who do we partner with? There are many people abroad. Who's doing the lobby? We see many, lately Uganda has become a Hollywood for art. Many actors are flashing here. I see icons all over.
We come in, make promises. We need to follow up on this.
Whoever is lobbying these people, lobby for us some useful people who can assist in these hard times, in the likes of medical health. We need to partner with people who can assist, and they are there. In agriculture, who are we partnering with for assistance? As we look at cutting this, what are we doing to increase our income gaps? Rather, our income basket. Are we because this alone cannot bring us out of the ditch. So we must also have a discussion into what circumstantial additions can we have as we do this. When you talk about job creation, we have been having this issue, we have been having the same conversation again and again and again. What are our kids able to do to assist? How do we make them resourceful? How do we increase our export levels in times like this? Because if we don't have enough money here, how do we bring in more revenue? What do we make to sell? Coffee is now, we are back on the market of coffee in Uganda. But how do we sell our coffee? What can we do? As we cut the budgets of these guys who are just loitering in Europe and wherever they go, let's just put some money in value addition.
The money, yes.
If you're selling raw coffee, how do we assist Ugandans? Milk. Like, we need to shift now our burden, rather our eyes, from wasteful expenditure to purposeful expenses, like value addition. How do you increase your export value vis-a-vis now that you've cut some of these? So that's a big question we need to answer. This alone is not enough for us.
Yes.
We can't just simply say, no, we have dealt with this, so let's just be, no. Let's support the people who are in active work that can be sold for good revenue. For example, majorly, looking at agriculture. What are we exporting? What are we putting on the global market? We started making some cars. I think, is it the Kira EV something?
Yes, the Kira EV. Mm-hmm.
Who are we selling to these cars? We can't be only making 3 cars and we are all over the place.
Yes.
The buses are doing well on the road. Those who are, let's go and sell them out. Can get some money. Kenya is here. We are in the East African community. Take to Sudan.
Yes.
Take to Congo. Like, what are we doing to enhance also our exportation levels? Because that's one of the ways. Since we don't have enough income, let's look out for the foreign income now. But for me, I think partnerships are key in all major sectors in agriculture. I think there was one time a partnership that was done through URI or something that was from Israel, quite important. Mm-hmm. Let's bring the knowledge to our people in farming, in other sectors, innovative, IT, you know. But also, conclusively or lastly from me, Phil, let me say this, that when you're dealing with a financial crisis, you can't be, you don't have to be afraid to have a setback. A setback will mean you may drop in your status level. And this talks to all institutions that use government money. Things can't be the same in an abnormal situation. You can't want to live normal, yet we are living in an abnormal scenario or situation for that matter. So, all government institutions, whoever is a beneficiary of government directly, should look into reducing their confines. And happily, and happily, because this is the only way to do it. Otherwise, if we don't, we are doing whatever we are doing at the expense of people who don't have medicine. Now we have challenges of schools and so many other things.
Well, there you go. And maybe again, just to let you know, in as much as they're making these cuts, government has, of course, through the Ministry of Finance, has come out to highlight a couple of areas where they're going to focus their attention in the next financial year of 2023-2024. And Ramadan Gobi, the Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Finance, was talking about how priority investment sectors will be including starting the construction of the standard gauge railway and finalization of the rehabilitation of the meter gauge railway, and also enhancement of small-scale solar-powered irrigation investments, and of course addressing climate change and also food security. Again, a couple minutes ago I was talking about how the Minister of Finance, that is Machia Kasaija, was talking about putting aside a special budget for climate change. So clearly this is going to be another area of priority in the next financial year. And building of power service stations and transmission lines, and also capitalization of the Uganda Development Bank and Uganda Development Corporation. Of course, alongside supporting private sector development, recovery, and also more looking into the economic transformation. And the government will also prioritize spending on security, peace and governance, health, education, and provision of water, road maintenance, and social spending and investments in oil and gas, at least among others. So while they are cutting down on some of the unnecessary expenditure, what they deem as unnecessary expenditure right now, there are other areas they're looking at to give more attention, because they do believe these have quite some long and of course good results and also good impact on the economy and the country as a whole. So clearly I am yet to see how this is going to happen. I'm waiting for the implementation, like you did say. It's a very good move, a very smart actually move, but how do we get it implemented? I cannot wait to see all of that. Well, there you go. That brings us to the end of today's discussion. But of course, we still have quite a lot more coming in for you. Make sure that you grab yourself the dailies this morning. Speaking of dailies, what's happening in the Daily Nation over there in Kenya? Big class divide in junior high. Again, another story you should be able to look out for. Ruto goes silent on state capture 2022 poll probes. And looking at rebel MPs to form anti-Raila liberation group. And manufacturers of cooking oil protest as importation cartels invade sector. Climate change taking malaria to new areas, according to researchers. Taxing idle land will spur growth, senators told. And still in more news, you'll be seeing public versus private, giving you how that is also working out for them in the Daily Nation. So get yourself a copy, and also the Daily Monitor and the New Vision this morning. Well, we're going for a break. When we get back, we'll be having Molen come in with more weather and climate information, and also give us the weather forecast for the rest of the day. Good morning.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by Get a win with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transaction. Dial star 165 star 5 star 3 hash to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Hallelujah Jingati drink and Hallelujah Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Hallelujah Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Hallelujah from all shops around.
Accessing your contacts the old way. Accessing your contacts with the My Airtel app.
Good morning, Uganda. Now we want to take a look at the traffic updates over the roads to look at which areas are quite clear for this morning in terms of traffic.
and which ones are quite intense. Now we'll be looking onto Google Maps right here. We're looking at most of the roads leading into central town, and we'll be starting off from areas of Lugogo, Nakawa. We're looking at intense traffic building up. That is on the side of Nakawa towards Lugogo right there. That is where we have much more traffic for those joining into the main Kampala-Jinja highway and those leaving using the same road. There seems to be much more traffic building up, but also if you're coming from the upper side of Naguru using Katalima Road, it looks like that road is also having intense traffic for this morning, and that could be one that you actually have to consider, and it could actually take much more of your time if you're to use that road. But also looking at some of the lower roads to that is Nakawa as you head towards areas of Bugolobi. That is quite clear for this morning, and actually using Old Port Bay Road from that side seems to be quite clear from Bugolobi, using Old Port Bay Road towards the city or joining into Kampala-Jinja Highway. That is quite clear, indicated by the green lines right there. But also away from that, now as you get from there, also from the Nakawa side and also the Old Port Bay Road, we're looking at intense traffic that builds up around the roundabout right there. But also that is quite intense and quite a distance, so you can expect to be delayed right over there. But the upper roads joining into that roundabout, Wampeo Avenue seems to be clear in terms of traffic for this morning, so that could be easy to use if you're coming from the upper Kololo Terrace. That is also quite a clear road to use this morning. You could choose to use Wampeo Avenue. That looks to be quite clear in terms of traffic. But also you look at some of the roads joining in, Yusufule Road, there is quite some traffic building up, but that is just around areas of Golf Course right there, so that is where you have a bit of intense traffic, but it does clear on, indicated by the green lines right there, meaning that if you're heading down onto the Kampala-Jinja Highway, that is going to be quite a good road to use for this morning. Now, also away from the traffic lights, from the Jinja traffic lights, you look at quite clear traffic for those living and joining in. You just have a small intense traffic towards the light, but again, away from that, it looks like it's quite a clear road. Now, there are just a few delays indicated by the green, by the orange lines right there, but that is more like moving traffic really. And you also look at some of the roads as you head towards Kampala Road, the City Square area. You have a little bit of traffic building up as you connect from Lumumba Avenue towards Kampala Road. You have traffic there for those joining into the main Kampala Road. But again, if you're leaving right there, it looks like it's clear traffic. Now you could choose to, if you're using Kampala Road and you're leaving town towards Bombo Road, you could choose to use Buganda Road. It looks quite clear for this morning. And also Lumumba Avenue, from that, it could actually look quite clear for you instead of using the main Kampala Road, which is also as you join towards Bombo Road, that road seems to be quite clear for this morning, and you could actually choose to use that, especially if you're joining from, that is Kampala Road towards Bombo Road for this morning. Now, away from that, we also want to take a look at what is happening in terms of traffic, of weather for this morning. We'll be tapping in from our satellites and looking at the situation over our skies. Now, this morning we started off also with mostly sunny weather across much of the country. We do have a few clouds that are starting to build up, and those could actually bring in a few rains as the morning progresses. But we're still looking at that, especially coming in from the Lake Victoria area, where we usually have an influence of Lake Victoria, bringing in a few clouds for the morning across most areas within especially the central area. But still, for this time of the year, we're looking at much more of a reduction also there as well. So we could still be talking about dry weather even for the southern part of the country. Now we're looking at our satellites, mostly cloudy weather starting to develop across the western side of Lake Victoria. We're looking at areas of Masaka. That is where we do have a rainy system headed over there. That could bring in a few rains later as the morning progresses. And that is indicated by the white colors right there showing the cloudy conditions. And we also have developments right there. You see the green colors starting to build up. That is indicating quite a rainy system that is likely to affect that area. And we also have a few clouds that are developing across southwestern Uganda, across Kabale, extending all the way towards areas of Mbarara, Fort Portal. But it looks like those are bringing in mostly in terms of sunny and cloudy conditions. Now, still indicating a sunny morning where we have the darker colors right there indicating sunny weather for much of the country. We're looking at the northern sector, parts of central as well as eastern Uganda. We are starting off with mostly sunny conditions, and also temperatures are quite up actually. And we'll be taking a look at the forecast that is also coming in from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority, and also considering that we're still moving on with the dry season. We're looking at numbers going up drastically in terms of temperatures, and also this morning's forecast also indicating a continuation in mostly sunny weather for much of the country. We're still looking at temperatures going up, especially for the northern sector. Just recently, we're looking at temperatures even hitting 35 for daytime temperatures. That is quite high over there. And we're still expecting that we could have a similar trend even as we go on for much of the rest of February, as we await on the seasonal forecast that will be coming in also from the National Center, but also East Africa as a region. We could be expecting that maybe also the dry conditions could cross over into March. And that is still a huge problem, but we're late to determine how far we're going to go in terms of our rainy season for this first part of the rainy season, that is March to May. We'll be also looking into much more of that seasonal forecast, but also considering our daily weather forecasts this morning. We also look at much more of that, especially the western sector, where you do have a few clouds that do develop in, and mostly because of the influence of the Congo side, or what we call the Congo air mass, that does come in to help with cloudy conditions developing, but also that is not much to influence wet weather activities. So we're still looking at also that area. Most likely we could have an early set-off of rains as we head towards March for western Uganda. We also have areas like Lake Victoria Basin that could be looking at much more rainy conditions also developing, especially as we start off with March. But we're yet to find that out, especially when we're talking about the seasonal forecast that is for March to May. And also this morning more into how Uganda can take advantage of the climate finance, how we need to gear more efforts to making sure that we have more efforts towards fighting the climate crisis. And obviously you also look at the efforts that Uganda has put across. Uganda is party to the Conference of Parties. Actually, we have fulfilled, especially when it comes to our nationally determined contribution towards having targets or ambitions in fighting climate change, and be going into how do we adapt, how do we cope with a changing environment. That is key right now. And we also know that the last COP27 did address the fact that we need now to consider loss and damage. And loss and damage comes in when you already have existing impacts of climate change. We know that agriculture has been worst hit by the impacts of climate change, and we are seeing variations in our seasons. Even right now, you can easily witness the prolonged drought conditions across the country, and temperatures are rising. So that is why we're saying that when we see governments coming up to actually address a key issue on loss and damage, on adaptation to the changing environment, that goes a long way into trying to fight the problem at hand. Now, we've also looked at initiatives that have come up with the targets that we forwarded also at COP27, especially in ensuring climate-smart agriculture. Now, we know that this is going to take a lot of money, especially if you're going to go to the grassroots people and ensure that even when they're practicing, they have agricultural practices, at least they are climate-smart. They're able to plant, but in consideration that they put up barriers to help, secure their plantation, to help deal with the changing environment, to help deal with the floods. In an event of a flood, how do you make sure that your farm is secure? Those are all ideas that we hope with the new climate finance and organizations initiatives that government is putting across, they're able to address. Because even as we talk about the forthcoming season, that is March to May, we could be talking about devastating effects. That is the season we usually expect floods, mudslides. So we need to prepare ahead of that and make sure that we're able to capture much more of that. Well, that is it in terms of weather updates for this morning. Later on, we'll be having Good Morning Uganda agenda that will be coming in right after this. We'll also be having sports highlights, and after that, we'll be looking at Good Morning Uganda Extra. My name is Modern Kenyana. I want to wish you a wonderful morning.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Get away with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transaction. Dial star 165 star 5 star 3 hash to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transaction. Dial star 165 star 5 star 3 hash to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. 1 minute past 8 a.m. It is the 20th of February 2023. Thank you for joining us for the GMU agenda this very specific morning, talking about issues and conversations that matter in the wee hours of the day. My name is Philomena Masco this morning, of course, and we'll be having quite some very interesting discussions again at this very specific hour. When I say we, obviously, that means I do have a very special guest in the house. And of course, in just a couple of seconds, I'll be introducing him. But this morning's discussion, talking about the question of homosexuality. Now, this has become a conversation almost on every Ugandan lip. And we really need to understand, where is this all stemming from? What is the way forward? What are we going to do about this? As we do believe that this is again against our social beliefs here in Uganda. When it comes to the morals we believe in, this again is not something that we align with. And of course, again, we'll be having quite some good conversations about that. Now, this morning, our very special guest, I am very happy because he's going to be giving us quite a perspective, the religious perspective on all of this. And of course, who better if it is not my guest this morning? Well, this morning, allow me to introduce you our very special guest, that is Reverend Canon John Awodi, the Diocesan Secretary for the Church of the Province of Uganda. Thank you so much for joining us, Reverend.
Thank you, Philomena.
And welcome back from the weekend.
Thank you.
Well, be part of our conversation. Get onto our social media, hashtag UBCGMU, and of course, make use of our WhatsApp number, that is 0709 602 592. Addressing the question of homosexuality in Uganda. Well, that is going to be our topic for discussion this morning. Now, in the last couple of weeks, I am sure you have been seeing news all over different news outlets. Could be in the print, could be via broadcast, TVs everywhere. We've been talking about homosexuality, and it was not so long ago after we got news that the Anglican Church in England had decided to embrace homosexuality, and they did say they will be blessing gay couples. This is not something that the Church of Uganda was buying into, and again, it was made very, very crystal clear by the Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, that's the Most Reverend Dr. Stephen Samuel Kazimba Mugalu, who clearly made his stand and said this is not something, this is not an idea that they were aligning themselves with as the Church of Uganda. Well, clearly stemming from that, we've seen also quite a number of political leaders come through and, present their worry about the homosexuality trend that is happening, whether it is undercover or not, but we now already know about this. And this, again, these are the discussions that we are going to be having this morning with Reverend. Now, Reverend, we were talking about this topic again earlier on before we got onto air, and you did pass on some information that again really shocked me. We are seeing the numbers going higher and higher. The cases are really growing here in Uganda, but somebody would be asking, has this just started right now, or it has happened for a while, but it has just caught our attention right now?
Thank you, Philomena, for receiving me and hosting me on this platform once again. I think the question that we are faced with is not the question of increase, but the question of reality. I told you earlier that in 2016, when I was still serving under Uganda Joint Christian Council, we got to learn that there was a program that was promoting LGBTQ agenda in some of the schools, and actually it was over 100 schools in this country.
Yes.
And we raised the alarm, and eventually we also had to engage with the Minister of Education, that is the First Lady, and from that point a lot of actions were taken. One of them was withdrawing of the materials that were being used in these schools to promote that agenda. And so from that point a lot of engagement has been taking place. But I think because of the alarm that was raised, possibly these people decided to either use other avenues to reach out, and that's why today's headline is glaring, and I just want to bring it to our attention about homosexuality books seized in schools. That means that since 2016 or even earlier, these people have been using other avenues. One of them is the social media, which is unrestricted in this country. And so at the end of it all, that is the reality that we are facing now with this particular situation. But let me just say this. When we talk about the LGBTQ question, I think, and from the studies and all that we stand for, as you stated in your opening remarks, this is a social evil that has cropped in our country. this is not what was acceptable in our society. I happen to do sociology in my first degree, and there are certain things that are called deviant behavior. And this is part and parcel of it that we need to accept. But also, secondly, as a Christian, the Bible outrightly condemns it because it is against the design of God for human reproduction. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, the Bible tells us clearly that God made a decision to create humankind. And we are told that humankind was created male and female in the image of God. That's very, very prominent and pronounced. And the second thing that is related to that statement also is the fact that God mandated human beings to multiply and increase. Now, how will you multiply and increase when you are marrying a man to man or woman to woman, or whatever behavior you want to design it?
Yes.
That to me is pertinent, and the Bible is very, very critical about this and clear that if there is any marriage to take place, it is between a man and a woman and nothing else. That is what is stated here. So the LGBTQ agenda, number one, is to cause confusion. I was listening to a clip that a friend of mine sent yesterday, and this guy was being interviewed on one of the TV platforms.
Yes.
And was being asked to define what marriage is all about. And he talked about, of course, marriage being about love. And when the moderator was trying to bring out the element of sex, that's where now the issue of confusion started. And the other issue also was the issue of defining us in terms of what God has created. We have, as male and female, we have different, organs that God has created us with for purpose of procreation and whatever you can think about it. But when you begin to address that agenda and challenge the LGBTQ agenda, you find there's a lot of confusion. So that is one thing that we need to take note of,
yes,
which is happening in our society, and that is being imposed upon us. And that's why, no wonder, they are going through schools,
yes,
in order to begin to socialize.
Which actually brings me to the next question. Schools have become quite one of the biggest targets for the people who really advocate for this agenda. You find that we are looking at primary schools, we are looking at education, rather A-level or O-level schools. Why, in your opinion, do you think that children, school-going children, are one of the biggest targets to the advocacy groups or whoever is pushing for this LGBTQ agenda? What makes them very vulnerable to these people?
Philomena, the fact is this, that young people are our nation today and our nation tomorrow. So in order to destroy the future of the nation, these people are now targeting these young people, the children, in order to destroy them completely. And that is something that we need to take note of seriously. And so at the end of it all, we should be aware, and we should now aim at seeing how do we prevent such kind of occurrences taking place in our schools.
Yes.
For example, Church of Uganda has over 5,000 primary schools in this country. And one of the things that we want to ensure happening in those schools is to see that nothing of such agenda is promoted in those schools. And we want to call upon all religious institutions who have schools in this country and Christians in this country who have established schools to ensure that what is taught in those schools is not promoting homosexuality or any LGBTQ agenda. That is something that needs to be taken note of. The other thing that we want to appeal to the government is to come up with a stringent measure to ensure that LGBTQ agenda is not promoted on the soil of Uganda. That to me will be very, very pertinent in order to resolve this matter. Because if they are going to these young people and the children, they're destroying our future as a country, as a nation. And we don't want to see what is taking place in some of those countries. And by the way, for your information, much as it seems that the Western world is buying to this agenda, there are people in those countries who have said no to the LGBTQ agenda. And that should come out strongly. And people should take note of that. Yes, they are using money and whatever resources they have. But as Church of Uganda, we came up strongly to say, no, we are cutting our ties with any of those organizations that are using money to promote their agenda. And we have survived. It is coming to 20 years now. We have survived without any support from such organizations. So those are some of the things that we need to take note of. And as I said, our children are our future.
Okay. Well, while we are looking at this, you actually use the right word, deviant behavior. But again, also, I could say maybe can we attach it to moral degeneration in the country? And somebody would ask, whose blame is this? Is this a shared blame between different stakeholders? When I talk about stakeholders, I am looking at parents who again have the primary role in all of this, especially when it comes to upbringing of children, but also looking at maybe education institutions, some of these schools where we are seeing things like this happen. Do they have a share of the blame to take? Looking at moral institutions, have they actually done what they should be doing? Who is to take the blame?
I don't want to say we should apportion any blame, but the issue that we need to address is the issue of our responsibility in whichever stage or level we are in. Yes, parents have the responsibility of bringing up their children in the right way, morally upright way. That is a responsibility that the parents do not need to abrogate, because that is a God-mandated responsibility they have. Unfortunately, and I bring this with a lot of pain, that many of us parents want to take our children to boarding schools even when they're in nursery.
As early as stop class.
That is horrifying. It is unfortunate. And I want to appeal to parents who have that kind of mentality. You are the people who are causing these things to begin to take root in our country, including many other social evils that we can think about. Because the first primary school or the first classroom is the home setting, where children are supposed to be taught values, moral values, social values, so that they are equipped. And from that kind of setting, then they will be responsible citizens of the country, of the society where they live in. And that is very, very key for us to take note of. But also, secondly, the schools have a role to play in this upbringing.
Yes.
I was here on 1st of February on a talk show, and it was on the same subject, the LGBTQ subject. And one of the things I stated was this, that concerning this matter, as we're going, if we have to make any difference in our society now, we need to speak with one voice and have one common stand. Why do I say we need to speak with one voice? Number one, the church, whatever the church emphasizes, because it has the mandate to ensure that people live morally upright lives. So what the church speaks out should be spoken at the family level by the parents, and should be emphasized in schools where these children go, and should be supported by the government, so that at the end of it all, we have one voice that we are speaking with. I happen to have gone through this kind of setting
Yes.
before, when I was still young. I remember the church was speaking with one voice, as the government was speaking with one voice, as the local leadership was speaking with one voice, and the parents were speaking with one voice. And for your information, Philomena, and those who are seeing and viewing us, because of this, a number of the leaders we have today are a product of such kind of one voice teaching. There's a phrase that is stated that it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
And that is what it meant. It took a village to raise a child. Are we doing it now? No. The school is speaking a different language. The government is speaking a different language. The local government or leaders are speaking different languages.
Yes.
The church is speaking one language. And so at the end of it all, if you speak different languages to this one person, what do you expect? Confusion. In order for us to avoid confusion in the lives and hearts of these children, we need to have one common voice. That should be clear.
Well, we are talking about addressing the question of the LGBTQ. And of course, this morning we are joined by Reverend Canon John Awodi, who is giving us some of the insights. How is this happening? What should we do? Who has which responsibility to play, especially if we are going to answer this? We've seen also a couple of our leaders coming through. His Excellency, of course, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, being at the forefront, fighting this whole homosexuality agenda, and he's been quite very vocal about it. And of course, the First Lady, and again the Minister of Education, that is Honorable Janet Museveni, has also come exactly out to show how she's actually in total disagreement with this agenda, and she has done quite a lot. She's been in a couple of schools and talking about to teachers and telling them what shouldn't be done. But we've also seen people raising alarm on social media, the society generally talking about it and how they don't agree with this. And it's very interesting that even on the East African bloc, Tanzania as a country has also come out to ban children's books that are promoting homosexuality. I mean, we have seen this as one of the most avenues that they've used to infiltrate the education institutions. The books they read, the textbook, I mean, because some people don't know exactly the content. We've had allegations about even the TV content, some of the children programs, they do have touches of homosexuality. And I mean, it's quite a lot. We cannot exhaust it because it seems every time we're thinking of new strategies, the other communities also thinking of other strategies. And well, get onto our socials. Let us know, share your opinions, your questions. Twitter, hashtag UBCGMU. And the WhatsApp number for you to use is 0709 602 592. Now, Reverend, we've talked about all of this. And my question is, talking about it is very important. It's very key because we are creating awareness and sensitization and even condonation. But is that enough? What more should be done aside from us talking about it, which is, again, I believe is one of the most important stages, because if we don't talk about it, people will not know about it. Yes, but is there more that we can do aside from that?
Thank you, Philomena. One of the things I would like to say is to appreciate the President and the First Lady for the stand they have taken against this agenda of LGBTQ. And really, they deserve my respect for standing out very clearly. Because if they stand out very strongly against this, we will be able to address this squarely and eliminate this. But coming to your question, the issue here will be that we need to not just sensitize the people, but we need to take appropriate action. As I said earlier, on 1st of February, I was here in this same studio talking about the same issue with the Minister of ICT and Guidance and Honorable Mapenduzi,
yes,
who promised that on the floor of Parliament, they will reintroduce the Bahati Bill.
Yes.
And to me, that is one other way of, addressing this issue, so that legally, people should know that these practices are not acceptable in the land of Uganda. I got some information that come September this year, the agenda of homosexuality will now begin to be rolled out in the international schools. And I also want to raise this alarm to say that if there is any international school propagating that kind of agenda on the soil of Uganda, I think that needs also to be addressed squarely so that they are stopped from promoting that. And one way of doing this is to make sure that, we monitor every program in every school by way of seeing what is being taught in these schools. Is it what is approved in Uganda? Or we are getting things from outside? If we are getting things from outside that promote such kind of agenda, then we need to have a stop over those programs so that we don't promote on the soil of Uganda or on the soil of Africa such kind of programs. But of course, as I said earlier, parents need to take up their responsibility to instill values, to tell their children that, having a relationship, especially sexual relationship or marriage between a boy or a girl is not, a boy and a boy is not acceptable on the soil of Uganda, and it is biblically sin, just like any other vices that we have been talking about, which is sin. So those are some of the things that we need to take note of. But we should also be aware of whatever avenues these people are raising to promote these kind of things. And they're like a chameleon. Today, they can be dressed like, they can be green. Tomorrow, they change color.
Yes.
So how do we make sure that we are always alert, following up on these issues, so that at the end of it all, we stamp out of our country and in our society any agenda to do with LGBTQ? To me, those are some of the things that we can use.
Well, there is some feedback here coming in from Ocho Godfrey Etiang from Taurus, saying that just like Reverend is saying, a government must put a lot of emphasis on laws and regulations to stop this new frustrations, especially that are being forced on us from the Western world. I do also have feedback coming in here from Billy, saying that there is actually no clear definition for this. It's creating confusion, and everybody has a responsibility to play in all of this. Now, Reverend, if we circle back to now church is, aside from other responsibilities, many responsibilities that church has, I do believe that it's also a moral institution. What is the primary role of church in this? And not just only this type of immorality, but even other types of immorality. What's the primary role of church as a moral institution?
Thank you. The primary role of the church is, first of all, to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ for the transformation of lives. And that is one primary role that the church has. The second thing is to teach the moral values, the Christian values, so that all who profess to being Christians are able to follow what the teaching of the Bible is all about. And so that is the mandate of the church. And so the church has to continue teaching through whatever avenues that it has. Some of the things, for your information, is through Bible studies. We want to encourage churches to have Bible studies that are consistent and systematic, so that through it all, people are able to learn what is right and what is wrong. And they are able to define their behavior according to what the scripture is talking about. I was preaching in All Saints recently, actually to be precise on 12, and the topic was obedience, the key to spiritual development. We need to be obedient to what the Word of God is saying. And I want to appeal to every Christian that is listening to me, that is seeing us here, that we need to come back to the authority of Scripture as is clearly spelled out. That some of these behaviors are evil. They are sin, as clearly spelled out in Leviticus, in Romans, and many other places. So that we don't accept such kind of things, but we model our lives according to what the Word of God is saying to us. That is very, very key and important for us to do as the church. Yes, the church has the mandate, and the church is you and me. Those who profess to be Christians are the church. That's what I want to say.
Okay. Also, while we are still on this, I did listen to a couple of people again talking about this issue. And the whole idea was that as Ugandans, as citizens of Ugandans, we have not yet appreciated how this is actually dangerous. We have a permissive mindset about it. Is this true? Do you think Ugandans have actually given the attention that they should be giving to this vice that is, I don't want to say cropping up because it's been for a while. It's been happening for a while, and maybe we had termed it and now it's back. But do you think as Ugandans we have given it the enough attention that it deserves, and have we done anything or everything to make sure that we fight it? We don't have to wait for government to come in. We don't have to wait for our spiritual leaders to come in. We don't have to wait for our cultural leaders to come in as individuals down on the society level. Do you think this is something we've appreciated, we've given enough attention and done all that we can to make sure that it doesn't really expand further?
Well, Philomena, I don't know if we have really, as a society in Uganda, appreciated this evil. But the fact is, I think we need to take it upon ourselves. Every Ugandan should wake up to see the reality of the matter, that, as I said earlier, this is an evil that is destroying and is going to destroy our future. And if we have to work and fight for our future, then the responsibility is upon each and every Ugandan to wake up, to rise up, to have a mind that is very, very clear. As you stated earlier in your introduction, there are certain social evils that we don't need to accept. Actually, all social evils, we don't need to accept them. And this is one of them. And so we need to rise up as a society in Uganda to stand with one voice. That one voice should be informed by our understanding of what a human being is. If we are created in the image of God, we are created to be reproductive. And the only way to reproduce is when there is marriage between a man and a woman. Not any other way. God did not give that alternative. Otherwise, he would have created a man and a man, or a woman and a woman. But he brought a woman to a man for a purpose. And that is one thing that we need to take note of. Our social system is based on the fact that, we need to have children. Actually, a society that does not have children, or any unit, any marriage unit that does not have children, especially in the African setting, and is considered in a way abnormal. And that's why you find, if you read and interact with many societies, you will actually find that they lay a lot of emphasis on the issue of reproduction, marriage and reproduction. And so we need to emphasize all these things, and we need to incorporate it in our mind. We should not be confused that, oh, this is a modern way of thinking. Yes. That is not it. That's the confusion of the highest order.
Yes.
Modernity doesn't mean you are destroying your future. That can't be. And that should come out very, very strongly and clearly to us, that we should not accept such kind of teachings that are promoting that kind of thinking. To me, that is one way, and I want to appeal to all Ugandans, actually, to make sure that they are not confused by what the Western world is called modern thinking. No, it's not modern thinking. It is corrupt thinking. It is evil thinking.
Well, I do have Akelo here saying if the government exposes and closes some of these schools and churches involved in homosexuality, then I will believe that they are against it. In other words, she's advocating for government to be more practical with the solutions and not just talk about it, but also implement. I think, again, this is in line with the stringent measures you are talking about. While we are at it, also, I would love to maybe, Reverend, to take us through the role of family in this when it comes to imparting some of these social and moral values in our children. I mean, realistically speaking, the dynamics have changed. Parents and their children, it's little time they have. Parents are running up and about. And there is a belief that they have actually involuntarily exposed them to some of this content because, I mean, we have seen all this content that comes in books, but also in what people see on TV, you know, at social media. We are seeing all this content flowing up and above. But what is the role of family in this? How do they come in handy? Because I also want to believe that we've kind of exposed indeed the children to this because you don't give them enough time. You know, it's either school, then they come home. The parent also comes home from work, they're busy, and they don't get time to interact with their children and even monitor what it is that they actually see. So what is the role? Maybe we need to remind ourselves the role of family, of parents, especially in protecting children against deviant behavior like this.
I want to go back to what I had stated earlier about the role of parents. Because a family comprises the father, the mother, and by the grace of God, children, and possibly also the support family, that is the extended family. And that's why I said earlier on that we need to have one voice to speak with. And I think as parents, yes, there are many things that we are faced with, the challenges that we are faced with, but that does not in any way make us, you know, relax on our responsibility as parents. You are called a parent because you are parenting somebody. You are parenting your children. That's why you're called a parent.
Yes.
So you can't be a parent if you take your children to be parented by other people. You don't qualify to be a parent. And I want to challenge parents. Those of you who are viewing us here, I want to challenge. If you call yourself a parent, then be a parent. Parent your children. It is important because that is your primary mandate as a parent, to bring up the children in a way that will impart the right values in every one of your children that God has given you. So take it very, very seriously. Don't abrogate that responsibility to any other person. The school is there, yes, but you have a role to play. Even if you are busy, make sure you create time for your children. From work, head straight home to have some moment with your children. Of course, I got to learn this, that, you know, out of 53 weeks in a year, most of the children are in school. But can't we capitalize on that period where the children are at home? We can do so. We can do so. And so that is the role that parents have to play in those periods when the children are on holiday. They should have time with the children. And at the end of it all, you will see what happens. And for the information of many parents, I want to say this, that those who have taken up their role and responsibility seriously have had their children brought in such a way that they have the right values. So it's not all parents. There are a number of parents who have taken up their roles very seriously and have brought up their children in the right way with the right values and right value systems. So we can do that. It's not a far-fetched thing. And they are very busy parents, but they have taken time to spend with their children. So let's give time for our children.
There shouldn't be any excuse whatsoever.
Nothing.
All right. Well, we're coming close to the end of this, and I would really love to hear your final remarks, Reverend, before we sign out.
Thank you so much, Philomena. My final word is to say this, that LGBTQ and other evils, according to the Bible, is sin, and God calls us to repent of such. And God is able to forgive whoever is involved in such kind of things, as long as the person has repented and confessed what he or she has been doing. And the church is ready and has the capacity to provide rehabilitation and support, psychosocial support, to whoever is involved in such kind of things. And the church is there not to witch hunt anybody who is involved in this kind of thing, but rather to provide a support for whoever repents, but also has the mandate to speak the truth and also to bring up issues that are evil in this society. So that is the word that I want to give to us. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Reverend, for stopping by. Now, that is Reverend Canon John Awodi, the Diocesan Secretary, Diocese of Kampala, Church of the Province of Uganda, giving us what we can do as a society, as a family, government, but also the church has quite a big hand on or in this fight. Well, do not be partaken by modernity. And like you did say, if I may quote you, modernity does not necessarily mean for you to destroy your future. There are certain things you need to think hard about, and of course every action does have repercussions. Well, we'll have to leave it at that, but Ruben Mpima Chibirango is coming in with the sports updates. We do have the Good Morning Uganda Extra also queued up much later on, so you can still be with us all the way, get into our socials and see what we are up to, hopefully. And by God's grace, I will be seeing you tomorrow. I am Philomena Masco. Have a very beautiful day ahead and a very productive week ahead. Good morning.